Peace, 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 peace. Good morning, good morning. It is Monday, January 19th, or January 13th, pardon me. Monday, January 13th. Up bright and early, up dark and early, before the sun. Up with the moon. I haven't even had breakfast yet. I do have a peanut butter toast, and one thing I want to say about, before I get into I'm going to talk about today about toast and everything. I feel like salads and lettuce and vegetables, just off the top, like on general principle, one thing is you don't have to worry about them getting cold when you cook them. And then like you're going to eat them, like this whole thing about speed and everything moving fast is like when you have something that you put fire to that you're going to eat after you put fire to it. There's this like, I don't know what it is, man, and especially in today's society, it's like there's this thing to eat it fast, like an incentive because it's going to get cold. And then like most things that you put fire to that you're going to eat, they're not as good, they're not as enjoyable when they're cold. So like now I have a toast, right? It's like warm and it's cold outside. So like I have incentive to eat it fast, which is like a kind of double-edged sword because I enjoy it less that way. And then also nutritionally, like when you eat fast, the food in your stomach doesn't like whatever yalla like digest right or digest as good as it could when you take your time with it. So I don't know, that's just kind of that's just a little caveat. It got me thinking because I got this delicious peanut butter toast and I'm like, I didn't think about this until I sat down that like, damn, if I had a salad, I wouldn't be worrying about if this shit gets, you know what I'm saying, cold. It's not going to be enjoyable, so I don't have to eat it fast. But here I am on camera, I'm like, I'm torn now because I didn't foresee, do I eat this toast while it's still warm and more enjoyable? And thus, I have notes here, I do have something I want to talk about that's not toast. Do I eat my toast all the way and put off the other shit? And now here you are. You get to see me eating toast like you've never seen that before. Like what? That's what you clicked on? That's what you didn't know you was gonna get? You didn't know you was gonna get me eating toast? Yo. Okay. Enough of that. So that does tie into today's video without really even knowing it, because I'm talking about jazz today. I'm talking about jazz music. I'm talking about jazz perspectives, jazz soul, jazz heart, jazz walk, all that jazz, okay? I got some notes. And to tie that into what I just spoke about, so that's not just an empty, weird shit that I opened the video with. The first thing on my notes here, and I'll show you just so you know I'm not wolfing you. What does that say? Oh, that's going to be backwards for you? It says right here, there's jazz. And right here, no mistakes. So yeah, man, philosophically, like I'm not even going to talk about how great of an artist Eric Dolphy, or how great of a drummer and artistry that an Art Blakey has, okay, and has given us. But just philosophically, and I look at philosophically when I say that, I'm like, here's Miles Davis playing the trumpet, and here's his philosophy. But like my hands can't really do it. It's like that maybe. Like this is his Miles Davis's legs and shit. Like he's standing on his philosophy while he's projecting his music into the space and the airwaves and everything. So I'm gonna first open with the philosophy, my connection philosophically with jazz. And the first thing it has to do with is no mistakes. And I mean, yeah, do I name drop? Yeah, I mean, it's important for me to cite my sources. So if you want to call it name dropping or whatever, call it what you want. Will Alexander, brilliant poet from Los Angeles, has basically, we've had many conversations about this. And the kind of thing that we come back to is this idea of no mistakes. And in a jazz perspective, he's also a piano player. And I play the MPC and everything else. So this idea of no mistakes is that, like, philosophically, yeah, that's like a full statement. Philosophically, no mistakes, period. And just leave it there. Like that, there are no mistakes, okay? Tying it to hip hop, Big Boy from the Outkast has said on record, I think it's The Train, which was on the Idlewild album, he said, God don't make no mistakes. So again, that's taking the philosophical idea from jazz, no mistakes, period. That's a full statement. To hip hop, now saying the creator, the higher power, the being who's responsible for all of us being, he's tying the creator of the universe, the Lord of the worlds, to that jazz idea from, I'm pointing to my West, yeah, 'cause I don't know. He's Big Boy ties the creator of the universe, the Lord of the worlds, to this jazz philosophy of no mistakes by saying, God don't make no mistakes. So to me, like I hear this multiple ways throughout my life from multiple people who I admire, respect, honor, and love, and cherish their art and their being human. And I'm like, damn, there must be something here. And then like just looking at it, like Will and I have talked about this. And when I talk to Will or when I write with Will, that's like the shit that he tells me, I'm like, okay, let me just fire, like go down the hallway in the mechanism of the mind and like file whatever he's telling me, like way back there, most of it, many of it. Cause like I'm not whatever, like I'm not usually typically able to absorb and really like get into the meat and potatoes, into the depths of understanding exactly what he's telling me. But like if I can just file it and remember some things that he says, I'll be reminded in the future. So like that's really a really brilliant gift. So this one of the things, instances of that, is this idea of no mistakes in jazz music, using that as a representation of life. Okay, so using jazz as like a, not a metaphor, but a stand-in, let's say, metaphor, not philosophically, like in this conversation, I'm using jazz music as a stand-in for life itself. So what does this mean in jazz music to say that there are no mistakes for the player, for a Miles Davis or Charlie Parker, a Duke Ellington? And then like I'm saying single individuals, but also understand, if like we have to understand that like a Miles Davis, when I say Miles Davis, me in my mind, I listen to Miles Davis. I've seen Miles Davis on the YouTubes here. So I say Miles Davis, but it also means Bill Evans, because that's who's playing piano with him. So like there's in the North America, there's this tendency to like you say an individual and to individualize everything and to singularize. That's a European thing, really, is like this, try to get the power into this one, like into one thing or like one whatever time frame, one, like that's not really reality based, but okay, I do admit there's a whole world around this idea. So I'm saying Miles Davis, but I'm like Bill Evans and the other cats. I say John Coltrane and I'm like automatically McCoy Tyner, okay? Like that's just how, like if you know, you know kind of thing. But what no mistakes means in jazz music and to jazz players is that the instrument I'm playing, it don't gotta be perfect. So like this is really a revolutionary thing when it's compared to or when it's contrasting and side standing with on the mental plane, when it's just not even comparing or contrasting, but just when you're holding space for both in your mind. This European notion of classical music is adherence to what is written down, to the notes as they are written. And if you miss a mark in your bringing the notes as they're written, to your instrument, to the air, which is a very, like keep in mind, that's a very regimented, difficult, strenuous process to be able to fluently do that while minimizing missed marks. So if you, in the European classical sense, if you miss your mark from how the music is written on the paper to how you bring it from the paper to your instrument to the air, and to an audience, that's really it doesn't sound good. Like it's obvious that there's something happening that wasn't intended from the European classical, and I'm talking about European classical philosophy and like classical music. So I'm talking about like a Mozart, you know what I'm saying? Like for sure. But also I'm talking about name a modern musician. Now it's a little bit harder because the jazz philosophy has really weaved itself into American popular music to the point, like, I don't know, like a popular musician, let's say a guitarist for Taylor Swift, right? Like I don't really listen to that music and I've never really seen it live, but I'm imagining that the guitarist for Taylor Swift, when he's going to these shows, when they're on tour, he's got the music written, and that he performs this guitar part and parts so much that he studies this one sheet of paper that's going to give him the set list or whatever. He studies a book that's going to give him exactly how the guitar needs to be played, his instrument needs to be played for the whole tour. I'm just imagining that's how it is. This is how it used to be with many musicians. This actually used to be the standard, is that they're given a book or whatever. They're given a rule that this is how you're going to play. This is what you're going to play for 30 dates, whatever. And it's got to sound as close to the same in Cincinnati as it sounds in Detroit the next night on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're going to Minneapolis. And it's got to sound sonically accurately. It's got to be as similar as you can possibly make it, those 3 nights and all nights moving forward. And like, this is actually how musicians are judged on their quality of musicianship, on their craftsmanship, is can you keep the same standard? Which is not, like, that's not, it, like, that's decent, sure, like, yeah, like, the standard, can you keep a high standard, and can you repeat that high standard night in and night out? And not only that, but like European-wise, can you repeat the high standard, and then can you keep to the script that we've given you at a high standard and accurate and as similarly as possible night in and night out? So that's one side of it. That's the European kind of Bach and Mozart. That's what they all kind of brought to the table. Cool, like that. That's one perspective. Flip it, and the jazz perspective, a Black American jazz perspective, is no mistakes, meaning you're not going to have a script. And actually, if you want a script, the script is going to be secondary. So like I'm gonna play it and I'll have a writer write out what I'm playing, whatever the notes, yalla, holla, whatever he hears that needs to be into that language on the paper. But the black American jazz perspective is, I'm trying not to say in opposition, but it's like really, it kind of does oppose that like regiment, like perfection, pure idea. Like, so, but what happens is like when that's transferred, let's say to rock music, a popular form of rock music, is you get a cat like Frank Zappa come along where he's heavily influenced by jazz music, by this philosophy of no mistakes. He's heavily influenced also by rhythm and blues, which is connected to Black American jazz music. Black American rhythm and blues was created by the Delta blues, the Mississippi Delta. If we can take it all the way back to chain gangs, singing the blues while they're chained up, working or whatever, not being paid for their labor. So you bring a cat like Frank Zappa in whatever, this is now like 1970s, 60s, from, where was he from? Down there in the valley, out there in the Mojave there, east of LA. Well, so he's influenced by jazz, really, totally, and blues. So he knows both kind of sides. So he knows this European Bach, Mozart shit where like by the book and you got to repeat these notes every single time you're at a show. But like from a musician standpoint, that's not the greatest. Like an artist, if you're a employee, sure. Like, I mean, I imagine some employees who are employed who find their sustenance and living, make a living by playing music. Like if you're giving a certain thing that you can basically practice a lot and understand fully, and then you just repeat it every night, like, yeah, I mean that I imagine some folks are into that and that's floats their boat and finds their lost remote. Some folks are not into that. So you get a cat like Frank Zappa who comes along in the I think late 60s from, I want to say Endocino, but I don't think that's right. San Bernardino, okay? And he's heavily influenced and really a student. He studies jazz, but he plays rock guitar and he writes rock music. So now he can do basically both, where he can write the music and on record, he writes all the parts of the flute, the drums, the guitar, the bass. He writes all those parts to make it come together in like this way that's his own. But he's also a guitar player, so influenced by jazz music. So the written music gets like radio play across the country and it's like the same form, same file, whatever, same record. And then when you go to see him live, him being influenced by jazz, him being a guitar player, is when he has a guitar solo and it's his time to basically ride that shit, rip it, you're not going to get the same guitar solo night in and night out. And wherever, Seattle, it's going to be one thing. They're going to Portland and then to San Francisco and then to Oakland. It's going to be different guitar solos in each venue. And then like he also has an understanding with his band that like they can improvise and points where musically, artistically, they feel the music and they feel called to improvise and to innovate based on what's already written. So this is gonna tie to Shakyamuni Mondays. I forgot to mention that this is part of my Shakyamuni Mondays in the beginning of the video. But this I say all that. I have another thing to talk about. No mistakes is there are mistakes from a outside perspective, okay, and that's what I'm kind of attempting to balance is like the inside and the outside. From somebody who might know the written form, or they've heard the record, let's say, and they're at a show. They hear a Charlie Parker band, a Duke Ellington band. They hear an Eric Dolphy, let's say. That's a good example because he was wild style. He's wild style. He is wild style. Somebody who hears an Eric Dolphy record, let's say they've never heard jazz before, and then he's coming to their town in whatever, Austin, Texas, in whatever, 1962. I don't know. That's a guess. They have his record. They're like, oh, this is amazing. I want to go see his show. He's coming to Austin, Texas on whatever, Tuesday. They go to the show, and they might be blown away like that, like, oh shit, it doesn't sound like the record. I mean, not that it doesn't sound, but he's not playing the exact same thing that I heard on the record. What is that? Or they might, now there's levels to this. So like somebody who knows an Eric Dolphy might say, oh, he's playing Cannonball, I don't know the titles, Cannonball, Feng Shui, the same on the record except for parts A, B, and C, like he improvised those parts, and like now there's layers established to where a new listener is going to be like, oh, I don't know what that is, like it doesn't sound the same as I heard it. And then somebody who studies this is going to be like, like they're going to see where there's congruence and where he stuck to the script, stuck to the record, and they're going to be able to see where he like lifted off from the record and like did this new thing. Okay, from a listener's perspective, that's what like no mistakes means, is like improvisation is key. And from a listener's perspective, that's not a mistake. It's like that's a improvement or like a innovation. But from an artist perspective now, let's think about it like musicianship is very difficult. It's very, to master a craft of a instrument, to get to the point to where your instrument is connected to your soul. And I'm pointing here, but it's like really like where your instrument is an extension of your being. Like that's incredibly difficult. But this concept of no mistakes and philosophy and action and really point of view perspective is that's like a buffer between the difficulty of mastering a craft, of allowing your instrument to be an extension of your being, and then you just being yourself with that instrument. Because like, let's say like from the European perspective, you're playing a trumpet and it's like, oh, that's the wrong note. Shit, what do I do? I don't know. I don't play trumpet, but I know philosophically this is how it works. Playing the trumpet, and it's like, shit, wrong note. Or like, wrong fucking combination. Or I did something wrong, I'm not quite sure. Boom, right there. There's where the opportunity for evolution, for innovation, for all the good things happens, is in what is perceived as wrong, is what's perceived as like a misstep from the outside. Because you can internalize this idea to the point where you're not phased. Like, and this is really how masters of any instrument, a pen, a voice box, a trumpet, a saxophone, a pair of shoes, a pair of hands when you're pumping iron or whatever it is, you need to internalize your strength, your inner spirit's vibrance to the point where no thing outside of that can phase you. So that no mistakes means if like I'm playing for a crowd and I'm playing a trumpet. No, let's say speech, because I'm speaking right now. If I say the wrong thing to you, to this camera, which I don't know what the fuck I'm going to say next, but let's say I say something where I'm like in my mind, or somebody out there is like, oh, he shouldn't have said that, or like in my mind, I need to internalize that's not what I want to say, first of all. And then also that like I'm still unfazed by whatever outside myself may be reacting to what I'm saying. I've internalized my inner fire, my inner strength to the point where there's no mistakes. Like what happens is I might say something I don't want to say. I might play a note on a trumpet that I didn't want to play. But what really is important when there's no mistakes is that acknowledge that that's not what I wanted to say. That's not what I wanted to do. And then what's important is the like shifting, and it needs to be basically instinctual and like just flowing. That's what flowing really means, is that acknowledge, okay, that's not what I intended, and then basically you move on. You acknowledge it and then you move on, and you keep moving like a river does, and just keep, and it's gonna come up again, like it might, but like once you practice your craft and your instrument, you get to the point where you can really be guided by something kind of outside above of like the physical action of you playing your instrument. So yeah, I say no mistakes means acknowledge the wrong note, acknowledge it, the mistake, and then move on, and then rinse and repeat. Like it's gonna just, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So and what made me think about this, I'm gonna tie this to a Buddhist practice, although this is really part of the Buddhist practices. This is just everyday shit that becomes your practice. I saw SZA made a Instagram post where she mentioned, or she wrote that there's not one thing or the other that's more spiritual than the other. Like I can talk in like Buddhist terms about like Garuda and like Kisei and all this, like I can use the lingo and shit, but like a Buddhist practice really is where you involve your being, your spirit, your unseen self, and your thinking, where really you're involving that in every single part of you. Yeah, I'm sure it's cold. This shit cool down. But so like when I say Shakyamuni Mondays in the title, I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that like some folks are like expecting this language of like, oh, lotus flowers and like Eastern sun rising and like Vedanta and like all this terminology to be thrown at them, which like sure, but part of my goal with these Shakyamuni Mondays is to like drop all that illusory kind of highfalutin kind of um, ego stuff that is associated. I see that like, you've seen them, dudes who have similar skin tone as me, and like the way they have like an air about how they carry themselves, like I'm enlightened and here's a dandelion, and oh, I'm just like the hippie kind of shit that's not really real life, but that people have like a expectation of when they hear Buddhism or things like that. Like I feel like there's an air to it. So I'm trying. Part of my goal with these videos is to take the air out of the expectations or the foreignness that I think North American audiences have with Buddhism and Buddhist concepts, because it's not like anything separate from what is. So, Yella, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Okay, that's no mistakes. I'm 28, 33. Damn, okay. Yeah, so jazz, no mistakes, basically improvisation, impromptu, innovation is basically like you can roll with the punches. And then like I mean this applies to many different formats, like fighting. It's similar, like if you're a boxing or an MMA fan like that. To me, my mind, there's no separation from jazz and MMA or like a boxing particularly. I like boxing. I don't really watch it very much anymore because whatever, I don't have a TV. But it's a similar thing where like, or like basketball or soccer, like a sport where like in practice, they'll practice the coach will have these certain movements for the body to do, for the bodies, for the people, for the players to like weave in and out, like to do footwork and to do dribble drills and to do shooting drills, where like you're training your muscle memory in basketball to basically perform the same exact way at the same standard, basically for whatever, there's 24 seconds on the shot clock these days, however many minutes in a quarter in a game, whatever it is, 49, 50 minutes. Like that's the point of practice, is that you train your muscles to basically perform machinations so that they're at your will, so that you don't even have to make the decision for what your muscles need to do based on how you want your opponent to react to you and how you are reacting to your opponent, right? But like, no mistakes, jazz comes into that because, yes, there's plays on a team might have a play like the point guard. You see him do that, like these things when he's like just crossing the halfway court, like calling out plays, and then he looks at the coach and whatever. Like that's part of it. But within, like, let's say Phil Jackson, a triangle offense, but within that triangle offense that is a regimented play, there's the best teams who executed that offense the best. LA Lakers of the double O's, and then, yeah, of course, the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, is they know that in this triangle offense, there's going to be times to improvise, to turn what could be a mistake, which your opponent could perceive as an opportunity to like go for an attack because, he slipped. I caught him slipping. But if you can turn that into a strength, and it's like instantaneous, really, similar to how jazz is played, that you're going to actually turn what your opponent perceived as an opportunity for him to strike you in a basketball sense, to steal the ball, or to, in a bigger lens, to like call a certain play and to run, a certain way and to go for a drive or whatever, a lane. If you can keep a jazz perspective, you can turn your opponent's perception of like, here's my time to strike, into like, nah, like you had it twisted, and you react in a way that's like making his mistake actual mistake and capitalizing on the fact that your opponent was wrong about you. That's a lot. 31. Damn. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, this could be. I could carry this on, but Shakyamuni Mondays #5 to stay alive. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Jazz. That's why I love jazz music, jazz philosophy. It's fun to listen to, and to put it into practice is really a spiritual endeavor. And I'm saying jazz music is intrinsically connected to my Buddhist practice, and to Buddhism. I mean, indefinitely, definitely, multitudinous. I hope you can discover ways that these are spiritual practices. Jazz music, hip hop is connected. Jazz music is definitely connected to sports, to training the body, the mind. Training the mind with a Buddhist practice is definitely connected to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to flex for y'all, but that's connected to training the body, because the wisest monks are the fiercest warriors. There were, you heard it from Wu-Tang Clan, Shaolin monks in the East that are warrior classes. There's warrior classes. There's classes of teaching monks who are from Shaolin. Like, it's a mind, body, spirit is like, it's a whole being that we need to achieve a whole state of being, a holistic state of being that does not exclude the areas of being that need to be focused on and need to be refined and defined and redefined and brought to a point where your being is as strong as it possibly can be. So yeah, jazz, big thing for me. Jazz music, no mistakes. God don't make no mistakes. I don't make no mistakes. I can turn my mistakes into strengths. Word. Second thing, this is useful in the game of life, okay? And I have a little roadmap. There's the game of life. Life is a game in part. So it's, metaphorically, like you can put life into many different metaphors. Like I've heard, what's that? Fugazi in the waiting room. Like they have that song In the Waiting Room where they liken, this life as a waiting room for either heaven or hell. Sure. For me, and I love Fugazi. Don't get me wrong. Like I love that. Like that's a great record. The Waiting Room, I think it's called. Okay, but for the purpose of my video today, I want to touch on the stone of life being a game, the game of life to be played. So you hear Rappin' Forte have a song called The Players Club. Like, yeah, he's talking about there was an actual structure, a club in wherever it was, San Francisco. Pardon me. where it was a players club, where it was, yeah, a strip club, and like all the players play, like there's things going on there, that's some real shit happening, and it's associated with what is known at that time as a player. The Players Ball, Outkast word. Like Outkast comes up again. That's a big influence for me. I love their music. I love what they stand for. Uh, yeah, that's one side of it. A basketball player, a video game player, right? And when you're playing games, you're known as a player. And the game that you're playing depends on what you're doing with your life. So, life is a game, as a metaphor for me, it's a strong connection. And what I want to touch on today is there's two sides of this game. There's more, but I mean, just for today, I want to talk about offense, where I've talked about in previous videos is offense. There's offense and defense. For offense is a big aspect of your offense is desire. And I know, I mean, I hope, I don't know, there might be some like generals. I don't know if there's any generals watching my videos, but what we're talking about, what I'm talking about when I say offense is desire, I'm talking about attacking. Okay, not in a war sense, but if there's generals like salutations, yalla, like I'm not gonna ask you where you're from and shit, but thank you for watching the video. I appreciate you to put it in a war scenario, in that language. Offense means attacking. In a basketball, in a game sense, what I'm talking about, the game of life, I'm talking about offense attacking the objective, the hoop, the goal in soccer, the end zone in football, right? Attacking, desire. Offense is desire. I've already spoke on desire a little bit. That's a subject that definitely deserves more videos. But for now, I just want to mention offense in the game of life is desire. One aspect of offense is desire. I'll leave it there for now. Defense. One aspect of defense in the game of life is reflection. Okay, and that's what I want to kind of, it's 37:20. I try to spend 5 on this. Get to 42, maybe by 44 it'll be a wrap. So, in the game of life, there's offense and there's defense, and you need to discern when you're doing offense and defense, and when each is called for in what situations. Yalla, that's true. So, but what I'm focusing on right now for Shakyamuni Mondays 5 is defense, and part of a good, sound defense, a strong defense, is what I'm calling reflection. And that's gonna be a whole concept that will unravel for you in many different ways. If I just say the word reflection, like you might have ideas come into your mind already. What is he talking about? I'm hoping to catalyze your own ideas of what reflection means to you. And I want to put this seed in your mind. I want to put this seed in your heart. I want to put this seed in the air, and you could take it or leave it, my friend. Is defense in terms of the game of life means not that like you're like, how do I mean it? I mean, well, let me just, reflection is defensive. It's a defense. It's a good way to defend what you already possess, what you already have within your being, because in the game of life there are encroachments made. I hope not too much for you. You know what I mean? Like, I hope not too much for you, but there will be times where encroachments are made upon what you have and what you possess and who you are based on what you have. So reflection is a good, sound defense. When you have a strong understanding of what I mean by reflection, which I'm hopefully going to give to you and let you catalyze your own understanding of reflection. So, okay, from a physical perspective, reflection, when I say reflection, there's 2 aspects I'm speaking of. One is the physical, which I'll get to, and 2 is spiritual. And these 2 coalesce into your presence. your physical presence, but also keep in mind beyond and behind your physical presence, around your physical presence, is a spiritual presence that you bring with you wherever your physical body is carried. Wherever you carry your physical body, you have two presences. You have a physical presence and a spiritual presence that surrounds you, that's with you. And they can be enjoined with other. So reflection, there's a physical and a spiritual aspect to it. Okay, and spiritually, reflection means like thinking. Like if you're on this video right now, if you made it to 40-30, you're reflecting right now. Like silence, I'm giving you silence. Like you're gonna reflect on what can't read your mind, but like I'm giving you opportunity to reflect. You're creating opportunity to reflect based on what I'm saying, based on you watching this video. It's like I'm giving you that opportunity, but you're also like taking that opportunity, but you're also like receiving that opportunity, and you're also like giving me the opportunity to reflect on my shit, because who I'm talking to right now is the potentiality of a viewer has not been actualized. While I'm recording this video, I know there's people out there who will be able to reflect on what I'm saying. So right now, it's like there's a whole lot of potential for reflection to happen, but by the time this video reaches you, that will have actualized. So your reflection, your thinking brought you to this video, to this point 4140, in that way. And then also thinking is like, reflection is like, at the end of the day, let's say, I hope you do, when you have time, I hope you have time for this. At the end of the day, let's say, the 7 p.m., the sun goes down. Like, I like to watch a sunset from the park. But like, I hope you have time to reflect on your day as it commences, as it is brought to night before you go to sleep. I hope you have time to like think about, to reflect on what have happened throughout the day that has now come to an end. Okay, I hope when you're speaking with people that you're being spoken to in a way that allows you to hold space in your heart, to like reflect for when that time with that person or persons you're speaking with, when you depart and you go your ways. I hope you have time to think about and reflect on what was said to you and on what you said to your folks. And then like thinking wise, like I hope you have time to study yourself in your heart. I have books here. That's part of my scholarship of myself, is I read books and then I put the book down. I read a page, maybe 5 pages, whatever I'm feeling, close the book for a moment, and I'm thinking on what I've read in the book. I'm reflecting. That's a spiritual aspect of what I'm speaking about in terms of defense being reflection. When I do things, this weekend was kind of terrible. I made some pretty rash decisions, said some things to folks that like I probably shouldn't have said. And now, like with reflection, this is where it's spiritual and it's brought into the physical. Like I'd made some mistakes, and no mistakes, right? Like I'm thinking about the next notes now. I played some wrong notes that potentially hurt people or hurt myself. I reflected on that and I'm like, this feels shitty. I don't want to do that. I reflect on it some more. The next step of this feels shitty. I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel this way, and I don't want other people to feel this way based on what I've done. How can I move forward? Well, first you have to reflect. I'm defending my spirit from creating suffering in my reflection of what I did this past weekend, how I behaved, how I acted, what I said, what I wrote to folks. That's my defense, is reflecting on how I've acted. I reflect, I'm like, damn, this feels like shit. I don't want to feel like shit. Boom. That's my defense for my spirit to be defended versus encroachments meaning a spiritual, like, not attack, but like basically where I'm swayed by the fucked up world to do some shit that's like not what I want to be doing. Okay, so reflection is defense. Thinking, all the things I just mentioned are forms of reflection, are a good defensive tool, a good defense versus this world that is so fucked up that we're in. That I hope you're not trying to contribute more fucked up shit to what's already fucked up. So, in order to contribute even goodness to this messed up, often wretched world that also exists side by side between, like, I mean, side by side to really, there's beauty, there's trueness, there's really true love, like, there's lovely things, like, simultaneously to defend against the wickedness and to turn to the goodness and to be an arbiter, to be a catalyst, to catalyze goodness, reflection is necessary. So thinking is part of the spiritual aspect. And then I say emotionally, check in with your emotions. Like, as men, we're taught in this society to like not feel emotions and to be stones, you know, like I think stones are admirable as a animist partially. Like I feel like, yeah, there's strong spirits with stones. And human beings can learn a lot from stones. Stones can learn a lot from human beings. But me as a human being, I am not a stone. I share a spirit. There's a great spirit manifested within a stone, as is a great spirit manifested within me. You know what I'm saying? Daniel, Casimir, Siren, Hashem, sure. But I'm not trying to be like that stone from my perspective, like, because I can only understand that stone from my human perspective. Like, I don't know that stone. So one thing that human beings ascribe to, like, blank face, no emotions, is like you're stoned. Like he was solid as a rock, right? I'm not trying to be solid as a rock. Like, I'm trying to be solid as who I am. Okay, so emotions, important, and reflection. How am I feeling? Check in with yourself on a day-to-day basis throughout the day. When you're around certain people, if you're like me, reflection comes in form of, you can feel emotions based on what other people in your space are feeling. And you can really feel what they're feeling. Check in with yourself and be kind, compassionate, and care for yourself first and foremost. Because, if you get somebody who's got volatile emotions and they're not aware, like you are aware of how they affect others, and maybe it's just they are usually, or they often are, but in that whatever reaction with you, they just weren't. This happens to me where, like, I'm typically, most times, aware and sensitive to how my emotions affect others. And I'm also aware of how others' emotions affect me most of the time. But there's times where, yeah, like, I slip. So reflect on your emotions. When you're in a new scenario, when you're in a new setting, a new environment, when you're in a new room, when you walk into a new space, whatever it may be, reflect, how am I feeling? And then, when you walk in there at first, you might reflect, how am I feeling? Like, I might be feeling nervous. Okay, cool. Like, I'm going to, like, cool out and do what I got to do while I'm in this room. But then when you leave that room, check in with yourself, reflect on, how did my emotions change from when I walked into this room? Did they change based on what I did and whatever I talked with people? And then, like, was there any people who I encountered who, like, definitely changed my emotions in that room and where, like, I could see that I changed it, like, or like where we vibed? And then how do I feel when I close the door and walk out of that room? How do I feel now? Like, immediately. But then reflection also is a timeless kind of treasure because, peace to Maya Angelou, she said, people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's true. I believe that. So hopefully while you were in that room, you had some memory. You created a memory. A memory was created. And this happens with good memories and bad memories alike, but they're all there for reasons. So that do that check-in reflection right when you enter, right when you leave that room, like immediately. And it might take a drive home, it might take a walk to the bus, and you're taking the bus to your pad or whatever. Yeah. And then also in your memory bank, you'll have reminders, or you'll have things that like bring that experience in that particular room on that particular day back to mind. And then time will kind of like do its thing based on the rooms and things that you do in the present moments preceding that room in the future. And then as you bring your future to the present and all this, time will kind of work magic to like formulate either a different image or a different type of light that you experience as you reflect on that particular room. Now it's been a month since you were in that room, and then it's been like 3 months, and then a year. And then the part of the key is that try to go into as many rooms, or as many, like, you find the rooms where you feel good and you have propensity to do good, and the people in that room are good with you. So reflection is part of defense. And I'm saying defending spirit from wickedness. I'm also saying you defend your spirit from wickedness to be able to experience goodness. Okay, so reflection is thinking and then emotionally. Now, if you remember, which I almost did not, but I had said to open this, the start of this, talking about the game of life is offensive, defense, and then physical and spiritual. Talking about your being has aspects of spiritual and then physical as well. So with reflection, I talk about thinking and emotions. That's spiritual aspects of reflection. I open this up with no mistakes with jazz music, with artists. There's no mistakes in your art. You can turn a mistake and a wrong note into a right note based on the next note that you play, not based on dwelling on the past note that you played. Okay. Tying this into a poetry practice for Shakyamuni Mondays 5 to stay alive. Part of reflection is creating. So it's good to practice reflection, because as you reflect spiritually, you can bring your spiritual reflections. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean this like high, like nose in the air shit where like I'm drinking chai tea at like whatever, a $9.99 for a tiny little saucer and shit at some like expensive cafe. When I say spiritual, I'm talking about just shit that doesn't appear. It's in your mind, it's in your heart, it's relegated to you. And then like it's also a shared spirit that like all these bodies, all these people, all these somebodies that we encounter on a day-to-day basis also have this going on within their being. So I just mean shit that's not readily seeable or perceivable even. So spiritually, with an art practice, with an idea of a jazz philosophy, reflecting being a defensive mechanism in order to defend your spirit from wickedness, in order to defend your spirit from wickedness so that you may experience, so that you may see, so that you may have a part in, so that you may do goodness and action goodness with your being. Part of reflection that's integral, that's really good to do, is you work this muscle of reflecting, and you work your mind to be strong and stronger, and you keep working your mind to have a powerful notion within your being so that you can express your mind and your heart outwardly. It could be with a trumpet, you know, if you're Miles Davis. If you're McCoy Tyner, it could be with a piano. You're Charles Mingus with a bass. It could be you're Vincent van Gogh and you're a painter, or you're a Basquiat, or it could be you're an Aja Monet and you like to write poetry. You could be a Suhair Hamad and you're a poet, and you could be somebody who grows up and is a lover of a Suhair Hamad or of a Aja Monet or of a Saul Williams, these great poets. You could be a lover of a Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G., and you work your muscles, your mind power, your reflective ability to the point where you practice that, and then you can be somebody who they look to and they say, damn, that's an artist who I admire. I respect that artist. Because like the industry shit is gonna fuck you up, basically. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like when we're selling shit, the selling of things is gonna create a lot of shit that does not need to be. So what I'm trying to do is like, I'm still putting my wares in a marketplace, my wares being my speech, my vocal, my ideas. What I'm attempting to do for folks who are rocking with me is that I want to fortify your being and give you opportunities to reflect and think and opportunities to fortify your spirit, your being, because we are basically, if you're in the United States of America physically, for sure, we are surrounded by a market. We are in a market. Like this video is being put into a market. I'm going to upload it, and that's a marketplace where there's competition. You got all kinds of choices of videos to watch and yalla. So part of my goal with these videos and with Shakyamuni Monday 5 now here is to give you opportunities to fortify your spirit if you so choose to receive this opportunity, so that what becomes important to you is your spiritual being, so that when you're in the market and when you go to the market and when you have an opportunity to put your shit in the market, you're strong in your spirit so that you know what you're putting in the market is not something that can be devalued, but also beyond that is that you know that your spirit is fortified, your being is fortified, so that you're not going to do anything in the market according to what the market is telling you you should do. You're moving with your spirit from a place of strength, from a place of knowledge, so that you're moving through that market in a way that you really want to move, not in a way that the market is like forcing you to move in a particular way. That's what I got. I had another point on here at 57. I mean, this might just be my longest video. Like, I mean, do I rue it? Yeah, I wanted to talk about the physical aspect of reflection. But I don't know if this phone can handle. I mean, it's still rolling. Like, I don't know. I mean, okay, so I talk about the spiritual aspect of reflection as thinking, emotions, checking in with yourself, reflecting on your experience in your mind. Like, you walk places, you go places, you talk with people, and then you can reflect on, like, how did I feel? What do I think about what they said? I talked about, I reflect a lot on what Will Alexander and I talk about. My friends talk about with me, but that's all kind of spiritual, unseen work. There's also a physical aspect of reflection, and by this, it's like, look, right here, like, can I point to it? Right there, like there's like in my glasses, in these glasses I'm wearing, there's a reflection. This is a mirror. This whole camera shit is a mirror. It's creating a physical reflection of this, who I am, this part of who I am, my physical presence, right? That's part of that. Like, so that when spiritually there's reflection, mind work, mind power. How am I feeling? How am I thinking? Read books, all this, meditate. Yeah. Physically, that work that you do in reflecting and thinking and strengthening your spirit is manifested outwardly. I'm saying outwardly, but it's not like, I don't know. That work that you do spiritually is manifested on the physical being, on the physical plane. Physically, it's manifested. So the best kind of thing that comes to mind right now is like, all right, you go to the grocery store. Everybody got to go to the grocery store pretty much, unless you're like mega rich. You can basically have people go there for you. But most people go to the whatever market, yalla, corner store. We call it out west here. In the east, they call it bodegas. Like we go there to get sustenance and drink or whatever. Oranges, apples, bananas, like oatmeals. Yeah. Uh, or think of anywhere you got to go. Basically, you go places in this physical world, this uh, marketplace, and these libraries, all this. Okay, and we encounter other beings. We encounter our fellow man, woman, and man. Reflection is like when I'm out in public, I go many places where I'm solo dolo, like I'm by myself, and I don't know a lot of people often. Like I don't like I go places where I just like I don't know who these folks are. They don't really know who I am. So what happens? Reflection, the physical manifestation, the physical aspect of reflection is like I'm looking around. I'm vigilant. I like to look places. You know, I like to look people in the eyes. I mean, I read people. That's just part of where, I mean, part of it is a trauma thing, is like where I grew up and everything, like reading people and reading language of bodies, of physical, what is this person doing? How close are they getting to me? How close am I allowing them, right? Like, whatever. I do that. And when I'm out walking in public and whatever, like I'm looking at people's eyes often, and I'm also looking at their shoulders, their solar plexus, and I'm looking at the rhythm that's created in their walk. All this kind of subconsciously at this point, because it's just an instinct I do, reading people. Reflection is like, I know my folks, where like I don't have to know you, but like that's my folks, where it's just like, what up? Like, yeah. Like, and oftentimes it's like I'm walking and I'm naturally looking at people in the eyes. I'm watching their shoe. Like I check out people's shoes, women especially. Like I love a woman's what kind of shoes she's rocking. All right, women love shoes. Like I love you in those shoes, queen. Right? uh, but I pay attention to physical expression. Like that's important for me when I'm out there, because I'm solo dolo. I don't have nobody really with me. So I pay attention to physical expression, and I know who my folks are, because it's like usually they react to my presence. And what that is, react, also another synonym for reaction is like reflecting, is that something about me, I know who my folks are, because something about who I am is reflected in what they do. And vice versa, like something about who they are is reflected in what I do. And that it don't matter. You could be on the street. It could be an empty street with just, there's like two people on the other side of the street, and there's you on the other side of the street, on opposite sides of the street. You're in relationship with those people. You don't have to know them. Like there's a relationship there, and it could just be human being. You're both human being. You're both physically present on this planet Earth in Romans 2025 on January 13th. That could be the only relationship that y'all have. It gets deeper than that, but let's just say for starters. Still, that's a relationship. Like, you're depending on that person to what? To be peaceful. To, like, not fucking do shit to you. And, like, to not fuck with you. And to, like, all kinds of shit. To just basically keep it moving. This can be, we can raise the stakes a little bit on the freeway. In cars and trucks moving at fast speeds. Every single one of those cars on the freeway is in relationship with one another, because they're all dependent on each other to basically what? To follow the rules, and you follow the rules to basically keep the peace, to like not have accident. They call them accidents, to not have car crashes. Same concept when you're walking, when you're anywhere, is that. And this ties back to my other video when I was talking about dependent origination, and then also known as emptiness in Buddhist terms. Like you're literally in relationship with everything around you. So reflection, the physical aspect of reflection, is that I say I know my folks because like I just see it. They see it in me. I see it in them. It's undeniable. Okay, but if they're not my folks, like that doesn't mean I'm not in a relationship with them. And if they are my folks, it's like my folkers, my folks, you know what I mean? My peeps. It's like it doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be my best friend. I don't have to cross the street and like dap them up and hug them and like how's your grandmother and like how's little rosy posy doggy woggy doing today? Like no, like the relationship oftentimes is just like, oh, what up? Like, yeah, how you? Like, good. All right, peace, peace. Like, and then if they're not, if it's just folks I'm in a relationship with, we're in relationship as far as we're both human beings existing on this physical planet Earth, and then on this street, whatever, uh, First Avenue, at this time at Yalla 2:13 p.m. on whatever January 10th in Romans 2025. Like, if that's the extent of the relationship, it is deeper than that indeed. But for like just for what I'm talking about, reflection in the physical form, that could be the only extent of our relationship. And then boom, like it's a street that I don't live on and that person don't live on and whatever. We don't live there. Maybe we don't ever see each other ever again. But in that moment, there is a relationship that like I'm relying on this person, what they've done thus far with their life to bring them to this moment. I'm relying on this person to have an understanding that, yo, I'm just trying to walk down the street. I don't want problems. I don't want to create any trouble. I don't want problems with nobody. I'm hoping you don't want problems with me. If you don't want problems with me, I don't want problems with you. And we can agree that that's the relationship. That's the extent of our relationship. We're both human beings who don't want problems. Hey, it might be a beautiful day. We're both human beings who don't want problems, and we both love the sunshine. Okay? Reflection in the physical form is your actions are reflections of your thinking and your spirit. So like, and practice, Buddhist practices. I walk a lot. Like I love to walk. Like my calves sometimes I feel like they're like, I don't know, like anyways, like I walk a lot. Like I love walking. Like walking and writing is like poets love walking. So I practice that relationship. If anybody comes up, it's like I can basically do it instinctually. Like I don't have to like think about like, oh yeah, like this person, like, it's just like boom. Most times I have headphones on a lot, so it's like just keep it moving. Like I'm keeping peaceful, you're keeping peaceful, acknowledge that. That's reflected in based on the work that I've done spiritually, thinking, reading books, and everything else. Yeah, so that's the physical aspect of reflection, and that they're tandem. It's not like one is before the other, or like one is greater than the other, or one is more needed than the other. It's like tandem, both important in terms of what I do physically is influenced and influential by and to what I do spiritually, mentally, and vice versa. What I do spiritually and mentally is influential to and influenced by my physical. Yeah, that's 108. Nice. Okay, that's a Guinness World Record. I might have to have a beer. No, just kidding. I don't drink like that. Oh, I have frequency here too. A note on frequency. If you already know frequency, you already know. And if you want to hear about frequency, you want to hear me ramble about frequencies and all that, y'all maybe drop a comment. If not, it's all good. I'm gonna save that for a later date, for a different tree to grow. Anyways, assalamu alaikum, much love, much love, much love, much love. Peace, 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 peace.